On the coldest rainy night of the winter, Clara Bennett was thrown out of the very house her family was living in. No one in that room knew that the woman dragging a suitcase through that doorway was the true owner of the house. The last dinner at the Bennett house. That evening, the Bennett mansion glowed under bright lights. Outside, rain hammered against the windows. Inside, the entire family sat around the long dining table, a place once filled with laughter, warm wishes, and cherished family dinners. But for Clara, everything had changed long ago. Ever since her father passed away, her stepmother, Vivian, had slowly turned the house into her own territory. She replaced the curtains, dismissed the old staff, moved Clara's father's photographs into storage, and claimed that old memories only caused more pain. Clara never argued. She remained silent, not because she was weak, but because she was waiting for the right moment. That night, Vivian placed her wineglass on the table and fixed Clara with an icy stare. "Starting tomorrow, you don't need to stay here anymore." The entire table fell silent. Ryan, Vivian's son from a previous marriage, smirked. His wife lowered her head to hide her satisfaction. Even Clara's aunt simply sighed, as though Clara were a burden that needed to be removed. Clara looked at each person one by one. Then she asked softly, "Is this everyone's decision?" Vivian answered immediately. "Yes, this house belongs to the Bennett family, and you no longer belong here." The words cut into Clara's heart like a slow, twisting knife. She had grown up in this house. She had cared for her father during the final months of his life. She had signed every hospital bill, paid every outstanding debt, and held the family together after the funeral. Yet all they remembered was a quiet daughter who could easily be pushed aside. The suitcase in the rain. Clara did not cry. She stood up and pulled a small suitcase from the corner of the living room. The wheels rolled across the marble floor, creating a dry, scraping sound colder than the rain outside. As she passed the large portrait of her father, Clara paused for a few seconds. There was pain in her eyes, but behind that pain was a calmness that suddenly made Ryan uneasy. He mocked her. "Don't come back asking for a place to sleep when you can't find one." Vivian let out a faint laugh. Clara turned and looked at them. Then she spoke slowly. "I will come back, but not to ask for anything." The door closed behind her. Inside the living room, everyone believed they had won. Vivian believed she had finally removed the last shadow of her late husband. Ryan believed the house would eventually become his. The others believed Clara was too gentle to fight back. What none of them knew was that later that very night, Clara drove straight to her father's attorney's office. The hidden will. Attorney Martin Hayes was waiting for her in a small office lit by a single lamp. He had worked with Clara's father for more than 30 years. When he saw Clara walk in with rain-soaked hair and eyes reddened from holding back tears, he quietly placed a brown envelope on the table. "It's time, Clara." Inside the envelope was Edward Bennett's final will. Clara already knew part of the truth, yet as she read every line again, her heart still tightened. The Bennett house had not been left to Vivian, it had not been left to Ryan, nor did it belong to any of the relatives who had been sitting at the dinner table that night. It belonged to Clara. Not only the house, full control of the maintenance trust, transfer rights, and all legal ownership records of the property had been placed under her name 3 years earlier, exactly as her father had wished. Martin looked at her seriously. "Your father knew there would come a day when they pushed you out. He wanted you to have time to see people's true nature before everything was revealed." Clara closed her eyes. She remembered her father holding her hand in his hospital bed and telling her that family was not proven through words, but through the way people treated each other when they believed they had power. Now she finally understood. The family meeting that changed everything. 3 days later, Vivian organized a family meeting to discuss selling the house. She arrived wearing an elegant dress, speaking with complete confidence. Ryan sat beside her, already talking about using the proceeds from the sale to invest in a new project. The living room was filled with ambition. Then the doorbell rang. A housekeeper opened the door. Clara stepped inside. Behind her stood attorney Martin Hayes and 2 legal representatives. The room instantly fell silent. Vivian jumped to her feet. "Who allowed you to come in here?" Clara did not answer immediately. She walked to the center of the room where her father's portrait still hung on the wall. Her voice remained calm, but every word landed like a stone. "I don't need anyone's permission to enter my own house." Ryan laughed. "Your house?" Martin placed a file on the table. Yes, according to legally notarized ownership records, Miss Clara Bennett is the sole owner of this property. The atmosphere froze. Vivian turned pale. Her hands trembled as she grabbed the documents. Ryan snatched a copy from the attorney and read line after line, his expression shifting from contempt to panic. Clara's aunt could not even look her in the eye. Vivian struggled to keep her voice steady. That's impossible. Edward would never do that to me. Clara looked directly at her. For the first time in years, she did not lower her head. My father did it after discovering that you had secretly transferred money out of his treatment account. The room erupted in shock. Ryan jumped to his feet. You're lying about my mother. Martin opened another file. We have bank statements, emails, and signed confirmations from the family's former accountant. Vivian stepped back. The arrogance had vanished from her face. All that remained was the fear of someone who had spent years controlling everything, only to be brought down by the truth. Clara continued. I chose not to reveal any of this after the funeral because I wanted to protect the family's reputation. But the night you threw me out of the house my father left to me, you chose your own ending. Ryan looked around the room as though searching for an ally. No one spoke. The people who had remained silent when Clara was thrown out now remained silent as the truth came to light. The difference was that this time, their silence could no longer protect them. The true owner returns. Clara placed one final document on the table. According to the legal notice, Vivian and Ryan have 30 days to leave the property. Any attempt to damage assets, conceal records, or continue conducting business under the Bennett family name will be handled by legal counsel. Vivian collapsed into a chair. She looked at Clara, her voice hoarse. Are you really going to throw me out onto the street? Clara remained silent for a few moments. In that moment, anyone watching could clearly see the pain in her eyes. Even after everything Vivian had done, Clara had not become cruel. Then she answered, No. I'm simply taking back what belongs to me. You must live with the consequences of your own actions. Ryan clenched his fists but did not dare move forward. For the first time, he understood that Clara was never weak. She had remained silent because she still loved her family. But love does not mean allowing people to walk over you forever. 1 month later, the Bennett house had completely changed. Her father's photographs had been returned to the living room. Rooms that had remained locked for years were opened again. The garden where Clara and her father once planted roses was being cared for once more. Clara did not sell the house. Instead, she transformed it into a temporary residence for elderly women abandoned by their families, women who had once been like her, overlooked, pushed aside, and forced to believe they no longer mattered. And on the front door, she hung a small sign. This place belongs to those who were forgotten, but never lost their dignity. Clara's story is more than just a family drama Reddit stories narrative. It is a Reddit family drama story about truth, patience, and the moment an underestimated woman steps out of the shadows to reclaim her life. In dramatic storytelling, the greatest twist is not always about money or property. Sometimes it comes in the moment a person finally recognizes their own worth. If this story moved you, leave a comment and tell us, do you think Clara should forgive Vivian, or should she let the law take its course? And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional family drama stories filled with shocking truths hidden behind seemingly peaceful doors.